Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS. In this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 18th March 2021. In this lecture, we are going to see 7 important topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first article. Title says serious issue of 3 crore ration cards were cancelled, says Supreme Court. So this article mainly talking about bogus ration cards. These ration cards are very much important mainly to provide food security here, such that we can ensure right to food for mainly below poverty line people. So under this ration cards, under this National Food Security Act, we are going to provide some food grains at subsidized rate mainly to this below poverty line people. So whenever we are going for removing or cancellation of these ration cards to these tribal people so and so, then what happened, their right to food, it is mainly violated, and there is food security that is not ensured to these people, and as well as there will be increased deaths because of starvation. Okay, so this is about some background regarding this article. And now let us try to see this article in a great detail. So this article mainly focusing on ration cards, right? So if you see context here, it mainly says that this Koili Devi, she mainly belongs to Jharkhand, and she filed a petition that in 2017 her 11 years old daughter died because of starvation. Okay, so regarding this petition, Supreme Court gave this thing. Okay, Supreme Court mainly said that it is very serious matter if center had really cancelled around 3 crore ration cards. So this cancellation had mainly led to increased starvation deaths, and especially tribal people and as well as poor who are solely because of they could not be biometrically linked with Aadhaar. So why cancellation of this ration card? Because these people, they did not linked their Aadhaar cards or biometric data. Okay, so because of this, that led to cancellation of this ration cards here. So if you see some details regarding total ration cards, there are about 223, okay, 235 lakhs so and so. Okay, so these are some amount of ration cards which are mainly present. And if you see some details about among these ration card, only 89% they are linked with Aadhaar, and about 33% of ration cards they are linked with mobile number, and about 17% of ration cards they are linked with their bank accounts. So if you see center or union government mainly gave explanation regarding this cancellation of ration cards here, that is because there are some bogus ration cards, so we went for cancellation of this ration card. So this is explanation which is given by our union government. So recently report mainly submitted by this petition, it said that real reason for cancellation of these ration cards is technological system mainly based on iris identification or some thumbprints or non-possession of Aadhaar cards. Because of non-functioning of internet in rural and as well as some remote areas, they cannot link these Aadhaar cards or iris information or some thumbprints here. So because of this, that led to cancellation of these ration cards. And this report also estimated that about 2 to 4 crores of ration cards have been cancelled because of there is no linking of Aadhaar card with their ration cards. So in this way, right to food. Okay, so if you are talking about this ration cards, one important thing we are mainly ensuring here is right to food. So right to food which the ration card which is symbolizing, that is curbed or that is mainly violated because of lack of Aadhaar linked with these ration cards. So what will be impact? So whenever there is no access to subsidized food grains, so there is lack of food. So because of this, there are many millions of Indians, they are mainly depending on this subsidized food grains, they deprived here. So because of this, that led to increased starvation related deaths in states like Jharkhand, UP, Odisha, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal and as well as Andhra Pradesh here. So in this context, what is need? So if you're talking about need, first one is we can go for regular social audits. We can go for framing of rules and vigilance committees mainly to look after these bogus ration cards. And next one is why we need to go for providing of this subsidized food grains for these people who are extremely poor or below poverty line. So if you are talking about some important global reports like Hunger Watch report of Right to Food campaign in 2020, it said that hunger situation in India, it is very grave. And if you are talking about this ending of hunger, it is also one sustainable development goal. Mainly to attain this sustainable development goal to end hunger, so we need to go for providing subsidized food grains mainly for these people who are extremely poor and who are below this poverty line. And if you're talking about another report, that is Global Hunger Index 2020. So in this Global Hunger Index, India's rank is 94 out of 107. So if you're talking about India, India is mainly placed in serious hunger category. So because of this, government should come up with initiatives, policies and schemes mainly to address hunger in India. So if you're talking about to provide some right to food, we have these ration cards. So whenever we are going for cancellation of this 3 crore or more than 3 crore of this ration card, it mainly violates right to food of this many people. Okay, so because of this, it will lead to starvation related deaths in India. So this is important details you have to remember regarding this article. And now let us see next article. Title says plan to test Anganwadi food by FSSAI. So this is very important article. So this article mainly focusing on Anganwadi food. So we are going to test Anganwadi food. So whatever food packets that are mainly supplied by this Anganwadi to children and as well as pregnant and lactating women, so they will be tested now under this FSSAI labs. So this article is important regarding health, which comes under GS paper 2. So now let us have a detailed discussion on this topic. So first of all, this article mainly focusing on this Anganwadi food. And if you see context here, what it says. So this Mission Poshan 2.0, it is likely to be sent for Union Cabinet approval. So because of this, it mainly under this Mission Poshan 2.2, it also focus on testing of meals or some food packets which are distributed at this Anganwadi centers, mainly for nutrition standards and as well as which quality they are maintaining. So regarding nutrition standards and also regarding this quality of this food which is supplied from this Anganwadi centers, that will be tested by this FSSAI labs. So in this context, you need to know some facts regarding this Mission Poshan 2.0 and as well as you need to know some facts regarding this FSSAI. So this will be very important regarding prelims. Okay, and if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that Ministry of Women and Child Development, it is nodal ministry mainly for implementing of this Mission Poshan 2.0. So this is an important prelims fact. Okay, so Ministry of Women and Child Development, which is the nodal agency to implement this Poshan, that is Mission Poshan 2.0. And this Mission Poshan 2.0 will also, this Ministry of Women and Child Development will also come up with partner with Panchayat Raj functionaries at local level, that is at village level and as well as at Anganwadi workers level, such that they mainly helps to ensure or to maintain monitoring quality of food that is supplied from this Anganwadi centers. So these are some important details which are mainly highlighted in this article. And if you see some facts regarding this Poshan 2.0, so this Poshan 2.0 mainly recently our budget mainly talked about this Mission Poshan 2.0, and we are coming up with this Mission 2.0 with merging of two important things. First one is we already have Poshan Abhiyan, so we are merging with this Poshan Abhiyan with supplementary nutrition program and we are coming up with this Mission Poshan 2.0. Okay, and this Mission Poshan 2.0 which mainly looks into ways, measures for strengthening of nutritional content, outreach, delivery and outcomes. So because of this, we are going for testing of this food which is supplied at this Anganwadi centers by this FSSAI labs. Okay, and next one is this Poshan 2.0 will also prioritize 112 aspirational districts, and also it will be helpful for developed practices, and that practices will help to nurture health, wellness and immunity of children and as well as pregnant women. So these are efforts that are mainly taken by government for eradication of malnutrition from its roots. Okay, so as we know, malnutrition levels are very high in India. So we have high rate of stunting, we have high rate of wasting, okay, underweight, etc. So these are some important problems, because whenever woman she is pregnant, whenever she is not taking enough care regarding enough nutrients, etc., that outcomes will be seen in that children of that woman. So because of this, whenever we are addressing problems at pregnant women level, then we can eradicate malnutrition in children. Okay, so this is gist of this article. Now let us see some facts here regarding FSSAI. So what is this FSSAI? So if you see FSSAI, it mainly stands for Food Safety Standards Authority of India. So it is mainly an autonomous body which established under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So you have to remember this fact for sure. Okay, and this mainly established under Food Safety and Standards Act of 2006. So you have to remember this also. Okay, and if you see here, this FSSAI mainly responsible for protecting and as well as promoting public health. So here FSSAI mainly will go for protection and as well as promoting of public health, mainly through some registration and as well as some regulation, some supervision over this food safety here. And if you see headquarters of this FSSAI, which is mainly located in New Delhi, and there are about 6 regional offices, they are also present throughout country. So these are some important facts regarding Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. And now let us see next article. Title says India known as first reliable responder, says Jaishankar. So this article mainly talking about India's response. Okay, India's response to COVID-19. So this article will be very important whenever you are writing mains answer. Okay, so whenever you are writing any mains answer regarding India's response to this COVID-19, so whatever the things which we are going to discuss now, that can be used directly when you are writing mains answer. So this article is exclusively important regarding governance, and which is important regarding mains, not from prelims point of view. So now let us try to understand this article in a very great detail. So this article mainly focusing on India's response to COVID-19. So what is context here? Here context mainly says that external affairs said last few years that India had developed a reputation of being the first and reliable responder in region. So not only now regarding this COVID-19, but also from last few years, India mainly developed one reputation that India will be first and as well as India will be reliable responder in the region. And if you're talking about this COVID-19, so we exported this COVID-19 vaccine, for example, Covishield, for more than 72 countries. So in yesterday's lecture also we studied about this export of this COVID-19. And next one is we also exported medicines like paracetamol and as well as hydroxychloroquine that has been supplied to 150 nations with onset of this COVID-19, and out of this 150 nations, about 82 nations we provided medicines as grants. And next one is we also provided humanitarian assistance and as well as disaster response to Yemen, Nepal, Mozambique and as well as Fiji. So what will be impact of these steps which are taken by our government? So if you see significance here, so because of these actions which are taken by India developed a reputation that it is being first and reliable responder in region, and we can saw that too in critical negotiations of global importance, and also we mainly focusing on Paris Agreement. So we are trying to achieve this Paris Agreement targets as soon as possible, right? So because of this we are getting some global reputation and as well as India is getting some global importance also. And if you see here, we also came up with some humanitarian assistance and disaster assistance to many countries. Okay, and we are also going for vaccination, that is COVID-19 vaccine supply to other countries. That mission is called as Vaccine Maitri. So these are some important things that you should remember, and you can use these statements that we discussed now directly when you are writing mains answer. And now let us see next article. Title says NPS likely to rise in the first half of 2021. So this article mainly focusing about non-performing assets. So this is one important topic in our economy. So this topic is important from both prelims and as well as mains point of view, which comes under GS paper 3. So now let us have a detailed discussion on this topic. So context mainly says that a recent survey showed that asset quality of banks, which saw some improvement in second half of 2020, it is likely to be worsened during first 6 months of 2021. So if you see in quarter 3 and quarter 4, we saw some signs, some positive signs of economic recovery. But if you see in recent times, we are seeing there is increasing inflation, right? Increasing inflation regarding food prices are increasing, and also fuel prices are increasing here. So because of increasing food prices and fuel prices, whatever goods and services which we get in market, so those price that got increased. So because of increase in inflation, but there is no proper livelihood, and because of there is no proper job security now, even people are facing this problem. So because on one side there is increasing food cost and as well as fuel cost, and one side there is no proper income. So because of this, there may be rise of NPAs in first half of this first 6 months or first half of this 2021. So this is according to one report. So that report is FICCIIBA. So it is mainly based on July to December 2020. Okay. So if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that, so this survey mainly conducted on 20 banks that include mainly public sector banks, private sector banks, and also even foreign banks. So half of these responded banks, they reported that there is decline of NPAs during second half of 2020, and about 78% of participating state-run banks, they cited that there is reduction of NPA levels in their banks. And about 68% of respondent banks, they expected that this NPA levels that will be about 10% in first half, okay, in first half of 2021. And next one is about 37% of respondents, they expect this NPA levels to be upwards to 12%. So because of this survey which is made by this organization, so this article mainly says that there will be rise of NPAs in first half of 2021. So in this context, it is our duty to know some facts regarding this. What is this NPAs? Okay, that will be very much important regarding prelims. So if you see what is this NPA? NPA mainly stands for non-performing asset. So how can we call any asset as NPA? Okay, NPA, it is any asset of bank which is not producing any income. Okay, so whenever any asset, that means any loan or any lease of bank that is not producing any income for that bank, that is called as NPA. For example, we can say loan or lease which is given by bank to any person. So within 3 months that person is not paying any interest or any principal, then that will be accounted as NPA. So general time frame to say any asset as NPA here is 90 days, that is about 3 months of time. So if you see, we have mainly 3 categories of NPAs. First one is substandard NPA, second one is doubtful asset, and third one is loss asset. Substandard asset means asset remains as NPAs which is less than 12 months or equal to 12 months, that is less than or equal to 1 year, it is called as substandard asset. And doubtful asset means asset remains as NPA which is more than 1 year, that is called as doubtful asset. So what about this loss asset? So asset where loss has been identified by bank or RBI, so such type of asset is called as loss asset. So these assets, they are of very little value. So because of this reason, it cannot be called as a bankable asset here. So those assets will be called as loss asset by banks. So this is gist of this article. I hope it is clear. Okay, and now let us see next article. So before seeing this article, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. Are you preparing for this 2022 UPSC? Okay, so if you are preparing for this UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent course, that is current affairs package. So in this course, we are focusing on current affairs and also mains answer writing practice. So if you ask me what is importance of current affairs to clear UPSC, about 50 to 60% of questions, okay, about 50 to 60% of questions, either it may be prelims or mains or interview, so you can expect questions from this current affairs. So if you are getting any static based questions, they are also related to this current affairs. So in this way, mastering of current affairs, it is an important key to clear UPSC. And if you ask me about what is importance of this mains answer writing practice, many students, they will ignore this answer writing practice. So many students, they will think that let us start answer writing practice after completing NCERTs, after completing standard books. But this approach will not work for UPSC. So on day 1 of your preparation, you need to focus on this answer writing practice. Okay. Why I am stressing more on this answer writing practice? Because in final mains, you will have just 3 hours of time. So within these 3 hours, you need to answer 20 to 22 questions. So on average, you will get just 7 to 8 minutes for one question. So within this 7 to 8 minutes, you need to read question at least twice. You need to understand demand of question. You need to come up with framework of answer in your brain. And finally, you have to keep that plan on your paper. So for this, you need to get a lot of practice. So mainly to complete all these questions within given time framework, you need to focus on this answer writing skills on day 1 of your preparation. So if you join this course, we will be providing you daily one mains question, and on Sunday we will be giving you essay. So whatever essay, whatever answer you are writing, we will be evaluating and we will be giving you feedback. So if you are following that feedback, gradually you can improve your answer writing skills within 2 to 3 months. And if you join this course, we also provide you prelims practice questions along with video solutions. So why these prelims practice questions are important? So if you are preparing for not only UPSC, for any competitive exam, reading this paper and throwing it away, that will not work. You have to evaluate yourself. So how you remember that? So whatever you are missing in your preparation, so in which way you have to change your direction of preparation, that will be known whenever you are practicing these questions. So because of this, practicing of these prelims questions and as well as mains question, this will be very important to clear any competitive exam. So finally, I want to say one thing. Please try to join this course and don't take this course as a choice. Details of this course which are given in description box. So if you contact me, you can call me directly. Okay. And now let us see next article. Title says looking beyond privatization. So this is one of excellent article I find. So now let us try to understand this article in a very great detail. So after listening to this article, then I think there will be no doubt regarding this privatization. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 3 under economy. So this topic is exclusively important from mains point of view, from not prelims. Okay, now let us see this article in a great detail. So this article mainly focusing on privatization. So if you see background, why this privatization is in news. So recently in our budget, our finance minister had announced that government's intention to privatize 2 public sector banks and 1 general insurer next fiscal. And they are also coming up with rupees 1.75 lakh crore disinvestment target for financial year 2022. So now let us discuss what is difference between privatization and disinvestment. So if we have any company and we are selling shares of this company to private sector, so this shares that should be not more than 50%. That means we have 51% of stakes with government and we are going for selling only 49% for this private sector. So because of this, maximum share will be in hands of government. So because of this, the government will have power in that company and government will take decisions regarding that company. So this type of stake, when you are selling less than 50% to private sector, that will comes under this disinvestment. So if you are talking about privatization, we are selling more than 50% of that stake. That means what happened? Private sector control will be more. So in this way, government will not have power to make this decision with private. Okay. So only private sector will take decisions regarding that company. So whenever we are increasing stakes, that is more than 50% to private sector. So that is called as privatization. So recently our finance minister said that they are going for privatization of 2 public sector banks and they are going to have some target of rupees 1.7 lakh crore for disinvestment for financial year 2022. So if you see details here, so in our recent budget, Union government announced its intent to privatize public sector banks. So what are reasons behind this privatization? As we know, these public sector banks, they are facing one problem, that is non-performing assets. So NPAs are rising. So because of this, mainly to bring efficiency and to bring or to reduce risk, okay, and to reduce related risk of NPAs here, government mainly came up with announcement of this privatization of public sector banks. But if you see, author mainly criticizes this decision of government here, okay. So this author mainly come up with some constructive criticism. So if you see, author mainly says that around world, so there are about innumerable private sector banks are present, but these private sector banks are also facing problems of this NPAs, right? Not only public sector banks, even private sector banks are also facing this problem of NPAs here. And because of this rising NPAs, even private sector banks, they have failed here. Okay, so because of this, we are challenging this notion of private sector banks are efficient than this public sector banks. So even in public sector banks also we are facing this problem, and even in this private sector banks also we are facing this problem of this NPAs. So whenever we are going for this privatization of public sector banks, how can we increase this efficiency? How can we reduce this NPAs? So this is question mainly proposed by this author here. So if you see, why we need to talk about this public sector banks here. So earlier we have banks, okay, before nationalization of banks, so we have banks. So those banks are mainly run by these private owners. That means we have private banks earlier. But later on government came up with the nationalization of banks. So in this nationalization of banks, we made this private sector banks into public sector banks, right? So we came up with this bank nationalization that led to some revolution in our Indian banking sector. So before this bank nationalization, we have privately owned, that is private sector banks are present. So whenever we have private sector banks, it will be very helpful. That means it will be benefits only rich and as well as powerful people. So these private sector banks will not provide any loans to poor people or agriculture, etc. But they started benefiting this rich and as well as powerful only. So later on government came up with this nationalization of banks, and about 14 private banks, they were nationalized in year 1969, and later on in 1980 further 6 private banks, they are nationalized by government here. Okay, so because of this nationalization of banks, it mainly led to transformation of our Indian banking sector. So because of conversion of this private sector banks into public sector banks, that led to creation of jobs, and it also extended credit facility to agriculture sector, and also it benefited poor. So before this, providing this loans to this agriculture sector, so these farmers, they used to go to money lender, and from money lender they used to get loans at very much high rate, that is at 4 to 10% of rate of interest. So because of this, what happened, it will lead to debt trap of these farmers. Okay, so whenever we came up with this private banks into public sector banks, so it led open to these loans, okay, loans for this agriculture sector, and it finally benefited a lot of poor here. And even now, till now, there are some important sectors that are neglected, like agriculture, poverty alleviation plans, rural development, health, education, exports, infrastructure, women empowerment and MSME. Now these sectors, they are included under this priority sector lending under this public sector banks. So whenever we are going for again public sector banks to be converted into private banks, then these areas will be again neglected. Okay. And next one is, there were only about 1,833 bank branches in rural areas, and now in country we have about 33,004 banks. Okay, 33,004 branches by 1995 here. So now we are seeing this branches that are increasing tremendously here. So because of increase in bank branches here, so now there is decreased dependence of these farmers or agriculturists mainly on this money lenders here. So they can easily get loans from this bank. Because of this, they cannot move to this money lenders at higher rate of interest. So because of this, whenever we are going for private sector banks into public sector banks, it also improved working condition of employees, especially because government mainly ensured some higher wages, and as well as government started providing some security to services, and as well as other fringe benefits for workers under this banks. So if you're talking about public sector banks, so in these ways we can say this act as vehicles of our Indian economy growth and as well as development. So if we have private sector banks, it will be only helpful for rich and as well as powerful. So because of this, there are many sectors that are not addressed. They will not get proper loans. They need to go for money lenders at high rate of interest. So whenever we have this nationalization of banks and we converted this private sector banks into public sector, they act as vehicles for our India's growth and development, and they become trustees of people's savings and confidence. So if at all people have any money, then they want to go for savings, they will go to bank and they will open saving account, right? And in this way, these public sector banks, they will also support green, blue and as well as dairy revolutions. That means under priority sector lending, they will get some loans here, correct? So with that loans, they went for revolutions or improvement in green and as well as blue revolution and as well as dairy revolutions in our country. And this public sector banks that also led to significant infrastructure development in our country, okay? And if you're talking about operational profits of this public sector banks, it is about 1,74,390 crore as per 2019 to 20. And if you're talking about 2018 to 19, it is about 1,49,603 crores. So because of this, now author mainly says that, so operating profits are also very high for this public sector banks. So instead of strengthening this public sector banks, why we are moving for this private sector? Why we want to invite this private sector into this public sector banks, okay? So this is the important question mainly posed by author here, okay? So one thing I want to say here, whenever there is huge network of bank branches which are present across our country, and we have huge infrastructure and as well as huge assets in this bank sector, so whenever we are inviting this private enterprises or the private corporates into this banking sector, so whether it is a good move or not. So this is the important question that you should think, because in interview you can expect these types of questions also, okay? So if you see, whenever we are inviting this private sector into this public sector, so whatever advantages we are got from this nationalization of bank, that will be again disappear, and it will become very inconvenient for people to get loans from this private sector banks, and this economical banking services for common man will not be available, and there is also risk of monopoly. So if you want to talk about risk of monopoly, if you are talking about telecom sectors, earlier we have BSNL, right? We have BSNL, we have Airtel, we have Vodafone, so and so, but now we are seeing only Jio here, right? So because of this, there is, whenever we are inviting this private sector into any sector, then that will also leads to risk of monopoly. Okay, so now what is need? So rather than going for this privatization of this public sector banks, we can come up with some reforms in our Indian banking sector, mainly to deal with that challenges of NPAs. So first one is, we can come up with stringent measures that ought to be required to cover large corporate stress sector. So we can come up with stringent measures. And next one is, we can come up with taking criminal action on willful defaulters. So this is very important, because we have Vijay Mallya, we have Nirav Modi, right? So they are willful defaulters. So against them we need to come up with some criminal action against this large corporate borrowers under criminal offense. So whenever they are making any willful default, then we can make that case under this criminal offense, and we can take some criminal action against those large corporate borrowers. And next one is to improve accountability in this banking sector. We can come up with a system to examine top executives of this public sector banks across countries. So these are some important steps that can be taken, mainly to address challenges of NPS rather than going for privatization of banks. So this is gist of this article. I hope it is clear now. And now let us see next article. So this is also very good article. So title says, aligning a missile deal with destination Manila. So this article mainly talking about BrahMos, okay, BrahMos missile. Okay, so we are going to have IA with Philippines. Philippines mainly want to import this BrahMos mainly from India. So this article is important regarding GS paper 3 science and technology, because you can expect some prelims based questions from this BrahMos. And regarding this agreement, this will be important regarding mains. Okay, now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So this article mainly focusing on BrahMos missile system of India. So this missile system mainly built along with help of Russia. Okay, so this BrahMos missile that can be launched from land, air and as well as sea, and strike range is about 290 kilometers and new version it is about 400 kilometers. And if you're talking about speed, that is about Mach 2.8, that is approximately 3 times the speed of sound. Okay, and weight here is about 2.5 tons. So if you see context here, why it is in news, because recently India and Philippines signed implementing arrangement, that is IA, regarding procurement of missile material and equipment material. Okay, so this agreement mainly lays some starting step or groundwork for sales of defense system. That is mainly done through this government to government route. That means government of India mainly sending this missile to government of Philippines. So if you see regarding this, Secretary of Philippines Department of National Defense, he publicly acknowledged about intentions for purchasing this missile publicly. But if you see potential export deal for India, so whenever we are having this IA with this Philippines for exporting of this BrahMos mainly to this Philippines, it is one of important step here, because it is mainly the first step for export deal of India, and this move also improves closer relationship with other countries also. So because of this, it have a great significance for multiple reasons. And because whenever we are going for these types of agreements with other countries regarding defense deals, so it will be also have some challenges here. So we are going to discuss about these challenges also in a great detail, okay, at end of this. So if you see some details regarding this BrahMos, we started research and development regarding this BrahMos cruise missile system in late 1990s, and manufacturers regarding this BrahMos include BrahMos Aerospace Limited. So it is a joint venture between DRDO and as well as Military Industrial Consortium NPO of Russia. And speed it is about approximately 3 Mach, that is 2.8 Mach, that is approximately 3 times speed of sound. And range here is 290 kilometers and new version which is of about 400 kilometers. And we are doing some research and we are mainly having goal to achieve about hypersonic speed, that is more than 5 Mach, that is more than 5 times speed of sound, and maximum range of about 1500 kilometers. So these are some important details regarding this BrahMos that will be important from prelims point of view. And if you see some details here, so we inducted this BrahMos into service in our Indian Navy in 2005, Indian Army in 2007, and recently air launched variant was successfully tested in November 2017 by Indian Air Force. Okay. And if you're talking about exporting system here, so whenever we are going for this exporting this missile system to other countries, that what will be advantage or what will be significance to this India? So significance here is, first one is we can boost credibility of India as defense exporter. So we will get name of defense exporter across globe, and it will also help to meet target of $5 billion in defense exports by 2025. So we have target to export our defense system to other countries. In return we can get money, right? So that money here is about target of $5 billion by 2025, and we can elevate its status in regional superpower, and we can also emerge as regional superpower in that area. So this will be important significance whenever we are having this defense exports to other countries. And if you're talking about other countries mainly interested to take this deal, here is Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, UAE, Argentina, Brazil and South Africa. So this Brazil and South Africa, they are part of BRICS. Okay. And if you see what will be the geopolitical impact when we are going for this exporting of this defense system to other countries. So if you're talking about Philippines here, so Philippines become first country to import BrahMos. Okay. So because of this, it improve relationship between India and Philippines, and also which will have good name for this Indo-Pacific region also. But Philippines mainly taking this deal because of caution from China. So if you try to draw a map here, so here we have China, here we have India, and here we have Philippines somewhere. So here China came up with this 9 dash line. So between China and Philippines, they have some war here, okay, territorial conflict regarding Spratly Islands and as well as Parcel Islands, which are mainly located in this South China Sea. So mainly because of this reason, Philippines mainly want to take this missile, okay, from India. And in this context, whenever Philippines, which is coming and taking this BrahMos missile system from India, some other nations which are also threatened by Chinese, they may also come forward to induct this BrahMos into their arsenal. So whenever other countries also taking this arsenal, what will be advantage for India? Advantage here is we can boost our India's economy, and soft and hard power profile will be increased in this Indo-Pacific region, and these nations, they can protect their sovereignty and territory. So these are some important advantages of this deal. So what will be challenges? This challenges part will be important regarding mains point of view. So challenges here is, if you are talking about USA under Trump administration, Trump came up with one act, that is CAATSA. So what is this CAATSA? CAATSA mainly stands for Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. So under this CAATSA Act, Turkey and as well as China, they have been penalized mainly for purchasing S-400 Triumph missile defense system from Russia here. So even if you are talking about this joint venture between India and Russia, that is between DRDO and NPO, it is one of listed companies of Russia. So because of this, we might have attract to this CAATSA here. So this is one cause of concern, because about 65% of components of this BrahMos, for example ramjet engine and as well as radar seekers, they are mainly provided by Russia. So because of this, it may attract sanctions under this CAATSA. And second important thing here is, if you are talking about US and India, they are also major defense partners. And regarding this USA, there is no clarity whether it will introduce sanctions over this India's acquisition regarding S-400 missile system from Russia, and regarding licensed production of AK-203 assault rifles, and as well as export of BrahMos here. So regarding this CAATSA, we do not have a clarity whether it will attract under this CAATSA or not. So one thing we have to remember here, however, there is an excellent case for India, because to receive a waiver from CAATSA, especially regarding this BrahMos, because of that can mainly helpful for confronting China here. So this is one important challenge. And next one is regarding financement. So if you are talking about financing of this, that means cost of this BrahMos, so it is about rupees 2,000 crore rupees. So because of COVID-19 pandemic, many countries who are interested to take this BrahMos, but they are finding very much difficult to pay this 2,000 crore here. So because of this, what is remedy? Remedy here is government came up with providing some line of credit or loan of rupees $100 million to Philippines, and Philippines, it is mainly thinking for purchasing of this BrahMos now. So what will be significance of this move? Here, if you are talking about significance, India determined to develop itself as a hub of defense manufacturer, and we can improve our economy, and we can achieve our target of $5 billion by 2035. Okay, 2025. So these are some important achievements here. Okay, now let us try to discuss next article. Title says allaying concerns. So this article mainly talking about vaccine hesitancy. So this article is very important regarding GS paper 2. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So background of this article we studied in our yesterday's lecture. So in our yesterday's lecture we studied that European Union came up with one report. So this report mainly saying that there is increased incidence of blood clot and as well as hemorrhage, that is cerebral venal thrombosis, in people who took this vaccine of AstraZeneca, right? So because of this editorial is in news. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So if you are talking about any vaccination program, so success of this vaccination program mainly depends upon public trust. So whenever public having trust regarding this vaccination, and whenever they are coming forward to take this vaccination, then only any vaccination program that will become successful here. So if you are talking about one important thing, that is Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker. So according to this Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker, it mainly said that there are about 392 million doses of vaccines that are administered globally. So out of this 392 million doses, about 9% they are in India. Okay, they are administered in India. So if you see details regarding this article, why it is in news, because Europe came up with a report after vaccination about there are some incidents of blood clots and as well as hemorrhage. So because of this side effects regarding this vaccination, they came up with a temporary halt of this AstraZeneca vaccine. So regarding this report, WHO and as well as European Medicine Agency, it mainly said that there is no causal link between vaccine and occurrence of this blood clots in people who took this vaccine. So if you're talking about data regarding blood clots, there are about less than 40 cases that are reported so far after taking vaccination. But there are about 1000 to 2000 blood clots every single day in general population. So this is according to some US report. So in this context, whenever we are seeing side effects and whenever we are stopping this taking of this vaccination, then we will have further impact on health of people, because there is again second wave of this COVID-19 that is emerging. So in this condition, we need to go for maximum number of vaccination to these people. We need to control pandemic first here. If you are talking about temporary halt here, there are other reasons regarding this temporary halt, not only because of the side effects regarding this blood clots or hemorrhage, but there are this Pfizer vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine, as well as Moderna vaccine. They mainly approved under this emergency use authorization. So what is meaning of this emergency use authorization? So what is meaning here? The meaning here is entire profile of risk associated with these vaccines, they have not been thoroughly studied. That means before final result or before completing all these studies regarding this clinical trials, before completing this, we came up with this emergency use authorization. That means we did not have studied potential side effects or adverse event regarding this drug completely. So this is meaning of this emergency use authorization. And if you're talking in case of India, there is a long experience with vaccination. Even every year we are celebrating this National Vaccination Day here. So because of this, whenever we want to build any public trust, we need to go for transparency and as well as we need to go for prompt data sharing. So whenever we are building this public trust, mainly through this transparency of this vaccine, and as well as whenever we are promoting data sharing regarding this vaccine, then only we can promote this public trust. So whenever we are promoting this public trust, then only we can see this decreasing of vaccine hesitancy. So what is this vaccine hesitancy? Though vaccines which are available in market, people are not coming forward to take that vaccine because of there is lack of information regarding that vaccine, whether it is safe or not, whether it will cause any side effects or not. So whenever there is no data regarding this vaccine, so that might increase this vaccine hesitancy also. So if you are talking about India, there is no information regarding National Committee on Adverse Events following immunization. But if you are comparing with other countries like USA, they are coming up with frequent reports regarding adverse reactions after vaccination. But in India, we do not have that study here. So because of this, we are decreasing this public trust. That will lead into increase in vaccine hesitancy here. So because of this, finally, we need to develop this public trust. So if there is no public trust, then there will be no vaccination program that becomes successful. Mainly to make this vaccination program successful, we need to focus on how to improve public trust. So that can be done mainly through accountability, transparency, and also providing some data here. We need to go for reports regarding adverse events after vaccination also. Okay. So we need to pay attention regarding contents of this vaccine hesitancy, mainly to make this vaccination program successful. So this is gist of this article. I hope it is clear. And now let us see mains question. Placing PSBs, that is public sector banks, in hands of private players, it is not a solution for India's banking sector woes. Comment. So answer should be not more than 150 words. We discussed about this topic in a very great detail. Try to read this editorial at least twice and try to write this answer. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll this current affairs package. Thank you so much.